Finally, an answer to the age-old question, which comes first, the chicken or the egg roll? Easy! Just eat whichever one's closest. The Sensation Salad and Filet Sandwich Meal are back at Zaxby's. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, crispy wontons, Asian slaw, and citrus vinaigrette. And each comes with its very own egg roll for a limited time only at Zaxby's. Try them with fried pickles while supplies last.
From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Aslan and Corey. It's Wake Up Warchant, probably presented by Zaxby's. Indescribably good. Norvell 2020, that promo code done. Should have used it, everybody. Should have used it. Now you're back to 30 free days, which ain't bad. Warchant 30. Check it out if you're already not a member of the website. All the great stuff that the staff is doing, mainly Corey and Ira, Michael Langston, Gene Williams, all available for your perusal over on Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey, we're back in the groove, man. It's week 2 of preseason. Knocked out some stuff with Norvell and company yesterday morning. Tuesday morning, they'll be back at it. You wrote a column. Man, we're here. Football season, right? Feel it. Touch it.
Yeah, man. Hey, it's only 25 days away, right? And it just, tomorrow we'll be suiting up against Georgia Tech. I'll be wearing my toupee. Every 25% of the stands will be full. Everything's full steam ahead. But yeah, I like that we are in a groove, man. I'm actually working. This is cool. This is fun. I hope you guys are enjoying like actual football talk.
Yeah, purpose in life. It's a good thing. So how's this toupee? Are you going to pick something up at Party City, or are you going to get like a full legitimate toupee? And like at what point do you start getting fitted or actually purchase it, like the week of, or what are we doing? What's the thoughts?
Do you have to get fitted? I guess you do. I guess they're like fitted hats. I didn't even think about that.
I'm a new Era 7 1/4. Do you guys got something that can fit a new Era 7 1/4?
So I think I assume Amazon will ship it. Doesn't Amazon ship everything? I get online. I've looked. You can get some pretty good toupees for about $180.
Okay.
$150. So no, I'm not going to do the Party City route. I'm going to get like a real looking head of hair. That to me makes the joke even funnier.
Okay.
That it looks like I'm actually trying. Right. Not like something where you can tell it's a goof, but like a real full, thick, black head of hair. And it's not just if they play Georgia Tech. Obviously, I would wear it to that, or wear it that day if we're not allowed in the stadium. But just the next sporting event we get to go that Florida State actually plays in, I'll be wearing a toupee. Whether that's hopefully in 25 days or if it's in 150 days, whatever the case may be, Daddy's going to be wearing that toupee. So I guess in the next week and a half, I need to kind of really settle on one.
Why are you doing that to yourself? That's like not even a bet. I mean, obviously at some point Florida State's going to play a live sporting event. There's, it should be football or bust.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously going to play.
Not a basketball game.
It's like saying, the sun's going to come up eventually,
Well, I also want to see what I look like with a toupee, buddy.
Okay.
I might be making some changes.
All right, I advocate that.
So it's two-pronged attack.
Changes to the depth chart after Monday's press conferences. Injuries have hit Florida State. This is nothing unique to the program, but it always does feel like your program is snake bitten when these things happen. But Jordan Wilson, tight end transfer from UCLA, apparently out for the season. He will seek a 6th year of eligibility. And then my boy Chubba Purdy, Preston Purdy, he is going to be out for a few weeks, undisclosed injury. Obviously, Chubba hurts a little bit more, just for me, because I've attached all my remaining professional wisdom to him emerging this season. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not that let down by it. It's obviously discouraging. You'd wish that Wilson at a position of need was going to be healthy and that Purdy was going to have all the time to compete for this job. That seems to all be wide open. But it just, I don't know, the few weeks, I don't know, actually, no, the few weeks is bad. Right, because he's out of he can't win the job. You'll be wearing a toupee maybe in 25 days, but he ain't going to be playing quarterback for Florida State.
Well, he won't be starting at quarterback, but I do think if he's back in time for like 10 days before the game, you can certainly have a Chubba package. And it would seem, just talking to his former head coach, watching the film, even seeing the video the other night before he got hurt, he is a guy that you could design a specific package for, right?
Yeah. I would
Like,
think
he doesn't have to be the guy that takes 80 snaps, but he could be a guy that takes, even early on, you getting his feet wet, he takes 7 or 10 snaps.
But why wouldn't – I mean, isn't that Jordan Travis's sort of – like, I don't think Chubba's that guy.
I mean, I don't know, man.
You know?
I don't. But the way he's talking to his coach, I mean, if he's – I mean, again, we kind of rolled our eyes at him saying he ran a 4.42, but if he's as fast or faster than Jordan Travis and is bigger and more physical, yeah, I could see them having a package for him.
Okay.
For sure. I don't think you can only have one runner on the team. He might be a more dynamic runner even than Jordan Travis. Who knows? But I don't think it means he can't play at all early in the season. But obviously, your chances of winning the job when you're on campus for 5 weeks in an official practicing capacity and you miss at least 2.5 of them as a true freshman with no experience at all, is really, really going to be tough to overcome. So I think that kind of paves the way. I shouldn't say that, but it paves the way for somebody other than Chubba to win the job.
Okay. Ira sort of wanted to dabble maybe in the area or the space of discussing, whether or not it's a wise thing to allow your quarterbacks to be live in practice as Corey opens up a carbonated beverage to wet his palate.
Man, I did it away from the mic, I thought.
It's okay. One of these days we'll get it figured out. I'm not bothered by letting your quarterbacks go live. I guess apparently it's something he's done before. It's usually your younger guys. There's benefits. There's drawbacks. I think it's especially if you're going to let a kid like that compete for the job. You got to let him be live. So I'm not upset by it. It could have obviously been worse. Maybe if he blows out his knee or is totally done for the year, then we can maybe scrutinize this a little bit more. I think you and Ira were talking about in the video that we did. Hey, it's good to kind of get him, get a nice little pop, feel like what it's going to be like getting hit by guys like Marvin Wilson, because that's what you're going to feel when you play against starters from other teams. But I mean, he was doing his work against, I think, third and fourth strings guys. But nonetheless, that point does still stand. I'm not bothered by letting the quarterbacks go live. I think it's actually a pretty good thing. I mean, unless you have a guy who is just far and away the franchise, like a Justin Fields, or I don't know who else is going into the season with just an absolute flush quarterback situation. Those guys can't get touched. Yeah,
the guy at Clemson.
That's right. Forgot about. I don't know anything about Clemson, Corey. I don't know who their defensive players are.
Exactly
I don't know
right.
who their quarterbacks are. I don't even know where.
He's a long-haired kid. Long hair, pretty decent arm, pretty good runner actually. Got a lot of things working for him.
I'm not second guessing it. It doesn't bother me to let the quarterbacks go live.
Well, it depends on the capacity. Like, look, Ira brought it up on the video about Jameis Winston. Well, I also remember him doing it with Ponder and Devontae Richardson. Like, he got so tired of every time a defensive line, I'm talking about Jimbo, every time a defensive lineman got near Devontae Richardson, they'd whistle it dead. And he's like, nope, we're going live. Because this is nuts. Like, there's no chance in a million years Kendrick Stewart is tackling Devontae Richardson in that space. He got a hand on his shirt. That's not a tackle. So he at times would make his quarterback lives too. It sounds like with Norvell, with scrimmages at least, that's always been his kind of motto with younger guys, is to get them used to the contact and the physicality. But I also think it's done in a way. I don't think it's like, hey, Kendo, if you see Blackman's back or if you see Chubba's back, blindside him, blast him.
Right.
Make his helmet come off, man. I think it's more like, I think the defensive linemen are maybe kind of, it's still, aggressive two-hand touch, even with a live quarterback in a sack situation. It's when they pull it down and run. And again, Chubba, that's part of his game. And I don't think you just can go from running over 200-pound Arizona kids to the ACC and not experience some of the physicality of college football players and the speed. Like, it's one thing to run fast when you know they're just going to two-hand touch you. Or it's one thing to, like, make a move when you know they're not going to try to tackle you. It's another when they're coming at you, man. And so I think you have to do that with a player of Chubba's skill set occasionally. Like, it's not something you do every practice, but maybe, I get doing it every scrimmage. You want them live, especially someone like Chubba. Tate Rodemaker, not as much because he's not as mobile. But, yeah, you got to get used to trying to make people miss when, like, being brought down is an actual possibility.
I agree on that.
But he also, the fact that he didn't disclose the injury, I guess he didn't with Jordan either, but we're going to assume it's a knee, but with Jordan Wilson, but it makes me think that it's something lower body, right? Like,
I don't know
or not that he didn't get it. It's not like a sore shoulder from throwing too much.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I should say.
I think the rumor, somebody posted some rumor about collarbone. So, but then I would like, man, collarbone, that's more than like a few weeks, I think, right? So, again,
I broke my collarbone when I was 8.
Yeah.
I think I was out for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks. But I'm probably, I mean, even as an 8-year-old, I was probably much, much tougher than Chubba Purdy.
Absolutely, man.
So
John Clark's son ain't no sissy, yo.
That's right.
Did he say few or couple weeks? I mean, I don't want to parse him too much, but I mean, we kind of have to.
He said a few weeks. He didn't say a couple because that would it seemed like 2 to 3 was what we were looking at, and then maybe he'd be back before the camp was over. Right. But yeah, like I said, that just kind of puts a real. I don't know how close he was going to get, how good the chances were that he would actually win the job. I think I always said it was like 51-49, but now I would say between him and Blackman, it's like 95-5.
Right.
So it really hurts his chances of starting game 1. It doesn't mean it hurts his chances for starting the season.
Yeah,
at some point.
Again, like James Blackman looked pretty good in the limited footage that we saw from the scrimmage, and it's Georgia Tech, and who knows those first 2 weeks. So, I mean, maybe Chubba can just make his move later on the season. We'll see how that goes. Still no word on what that 11th game will be, although the Florida State Twitter account did say that they are like in active pursuit of that 11th game. And I think they said they want to know, they'll let the fans know hopefully by the end of the week who that team will be. So 11 games still does sound to be the goal and the target for the program. As for Jordan Wilson, I was pretty short-sighted with the transfer of him just because of the limited production he had, at least on the stat sheet when it came to what he did at UCLA. I don't know what, Chip and, who was there before Chip Kelly? I can't remember who was there before Chip Kelly at UCLA. This is terrible.
Was it Jim Mora?
Or
was there somebody
I think
in between?
So. Yeah, I think so. Good call. Gosh, Corey, what would I do without you?
I don't know. I don't think that's right, though. It might be, but
I was going to say like Rick Neuheisel. I'm like, no way it was Rick Neuheisel.
No, it wasn't Rick Neuheisel.
It was a long time ago. I will say it's Jim Moore.
I think it's Terry Donahue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, went from Terry Donahue to Chip Kelly.
Him and Cade McNown out there?
Yeah. I think he coached he definitely coached Troy Aikman, too.
Yeah, it was UCLA. He was there from 2011 to 2017, Jim Moore Jr., so good job. Trust your first
there you go. I did it.
But yeah, just the fact that Jordan Wilson had not had any sort of, 30-catch season or anything like that was like, we'll just see. It's probably just a body or whatnot. But that's a position that obviously needs one, and they were quite complimentary of him, and he was a pretty well-built young man. So back to the drawing board to a certain degree, but obviously it's Cam McDonald's job to lose, maintain, and to hold on to. So I wasn't as worried or as concerned when I heard about him not being available. But that's a bummer, though, obviously, for a kid to transfer and then have to miss out a whole season. But back for 6 years is the plan for him.
Yeah, but they really did not seem too thrilled about that. They never. Why would they be? Yeah. It'd be weird if they were like, hey, and Jordan Wilson blew his knee up. Like, that would be weird. But the fact that, I don't think we quite understand. Maybe you have because you've watched more actual game film. I've watched highlights, but I haven't sat down and watched full Memphis games. But apparently the tight end is an enormous part of their offense. Not just making running routes and making catches, but literally they're like the point of attack on a lot of the running plays. And having a dude that big, that size out there with experience is something they were I think seemingly really excited about. And so to lose him, and then you go from having a guy with 5 years, being in college for 5 years, this was his 5th year, that kind of experience, that kind of size, to now you're the roster, is Cameron McDonald, who has played some, not much, but last year was more of a glorified receiver than a tight end, or a big receiver than a tight end, and then Wyatt Rector and a freshman walk-on, and then Carter Boatwright. Yeah, that's what you're looking at. So that was a really big deal for them to get an experienced tight end, and to lose them like that, they're going to have to make some adjustments. Because I think Cam McDonald can be a weapon, but I don't think he can have nearly the impact that Jordan Wilson probably would in the running game. Which, if you look at Memphis' stats and look at Memphis games, the running game is a big, big deal.
Well, maybe this opens the door for Jalen Goss. Maybe he can just drop 30 pounds instead of having to try to gain 50 pounds, and then he can just play tight end. So,
well, there you go. Yeah, exactly right. Well, yeah, I guess you can if you're, you can always. That's actually not a bad idea.
No, let it.
What does Goss weigh?
Let me see here. On the official rooster, Jalen Goss, he's in the 50s, I think his number. Jalen Goss, this is terrible radio.
It's
Why
all right.
is it not staring me right in my face? 267 pounds. That was on the spring roster. So,
What about Jordan Wilson?
he was not. I mean, I think he's 240, Jordan Wilson. I don't have
So you're
that
talking
much.
about a 20, 25-pound difference.
Yeah.
And as long as Jalen Goss can run straight ahead for like 12 yards and catch a ball, hey, buddy, at least you got obviously when you put him in at tight end, it's almost always going to be a running play. But you can occasionally sneak in a little seam route there to the tight end just to keep him honest. As long as he can run full steam ahead.
Goss is, sorry, I apologize. Goss is currently at 271. Jordan Wilson was at 250.
Okay, that's what. Hey, not that big a difference, is it?
Meet in the middle.
That's what I'm saying. Get to 260, my man, and go run straight, and you'll get on the field.
Otherwise, there's two other things we'll talk about today. We'll close out with the crux of Corey's column, which is really what was kind of striking me the entire time. I'm like, oh, this will be a good conversation for the podcast later on. But Warren Thompson, apparently his fate is a bit more clearer now after we had a really good segment. I promise you, it was like 12 minutes of back and forth, Corey and I talking about Warren Thompson and being a young man and learning from your mistakes and growing from it and et cetera, et cetera. But apparently, whatever, sort of sin.
You're talking about yesterday's show.
Yeah. For the Monday podcast, everybody. Anywho, the apology that was on Twitter and then wasn't on Twitter was seen by the person who needed to see it, apparently. So Michael Norvell, that's what I'm going to call him now because we're on that sort of familiarity now. But Mike Norvell made it seem like bridge under the water. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. It was crazy. I just
definitely not bridge underwater.
Yeah.
Those are bad bridges.
But that was a pretty forthright, sincere, very comprehensive answer to a simple question. I was just like, hey man, like, he's got a future here with you guys or no? And just a pretty. He sees something in that kid he wants to hang on to. I don't know how much of it is his football ability or just trying to be a coach and get this program on the right direction and create like an environment and a culture that these guys are respected and their voices are heard. But man, just the way he talked about Warren Thompson still being part of the plans, that caught me by surprise. That was much more than I thought he was going to talk about.
That was a lot. That was a lot to transcribe. That was a big old chunk of words that I had to go transcribe. But yeah, he said he loved Warren. I think he said it twice. He also pointed out that Warren was not an active member of the team when he took over at Florida State.
He did. That's right.
Kind of maybe in his own way reminding Warren Thompson where he was when Norvell took over. And then Norvell allowed him back on the team to then 8 months later be called a liar. So I think Norvell wanted to just get that out there one last. I mean, we all knew it anyway, but just maybe one last public comment on that. But said that he thinks he probably regrets his decisions, and it sounded like that. I guess Warren went up to them Sunday night, maybe before the apology, and did whatever he needed to do to make it known that he wanted to be a part of the program. Because again, I don't think that wasn't going to be an easy resolution, because coaches don't like being called liars, and when you do that publicly, they don't like it if you just go to their office and do it. When you do it publicly and it's on the bottom line on ESPN, they really don't like that. Especially when they don't think they did anything wrong. And in this case, unlike the Marvin Wilson case, in this case, Norvell did not admit fault at all and did not, in fact, went against it immediately and then did not mean anything wrong. And so we're done with the Warren Thompson talk. I tweeted, you and Ira and I were texting last night, and at one point, because we just kept texting about Warren Thompson, what did I send you guys? You remember the screenshot?
Yeah, his stats.
Yeah, his stats for his first 2 years. He's got 5 catches in 2 years. So we've talked long enough about a guy that has 5 catches in 2 years. I do think with Warren Thompson, though, there is a chance, man. There is potential there, worlds of potential there. And if this is all under the bridge, or a bridge underwater, as Aslan likes to say, and he's moving forward as a part of the team and as a part of the rotation and the wide receiver core, he can be a weapon. He is. I'm telling you, folks, if you watch him play up close and personal, he moves like 6'5" guys that size aren't supposed to move. So I see the appeal, but I don't think it was as simple as Norvell saying, "Oh, thanks for the apology." I appreciate it. You're back on the team. I think there was some serious dialogue, and it was expressed to Warren Thompson to not ever do that again. And that's probably why his social media has now been deleted.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no problem with him taking a stance like that, but I really just admire and appreciate the way he's handled it because, again, he could have just been like, yeah, we'll handle it internally or whatever,
Yeah.
but just to hear him talk about the young man that way, and then you and I, as we were talking about it Sunday evening when we were recording the podcast before I found out that he actually, deleted it. I mean, it's being a kid this young, having social media. I know everybody's got social media now. Not everybody's using it the way he did, but that's why I never fully kind of endorsed the whole give me my pitchfork, I'm in on this too, screw this kid, get on out of here. But I don't know if that's the right sort of message to send to your team when you're trying to create a new culture. But I don't know, I admire the way that Mike Norvell handled it. Somebody on warchant.com, the Tribal Council, says Norvell pretty soft on Thompson. No idea what kind of consequences are going on behind the scenes, but I was shocked at how soft the verbiage was. More like Mr. Rogers than Vince Lombardi. To which I scoff at that kind of nonsense.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody else did on the boards.
And it's a really weird dynamic. It's a weird situation. You had the Marvin thing in June. You have a pandemic going around, and it's your first year. And you are trying to build a culture, and you have to deal with stuff that, again, I said it last week. This is stuff that Dabo doesn't have to deal with. Nobody on Dabo's team, even if they thought he was lying straight to their face, as a part of the team, is typically going to go on Twitter and do something. I know the guy that's not there anymore tweeted about something from a few years ago. But right now, they just the team wouldn't allow it. You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't want to let their team down. And again, if Warren has safety issues, he has safety issues. That's all. I get it. I understand it. But you have other teammates to think about. You have a whole football season you're trying to think about. And I think that's the stuff that he's trying to instill, that care about your teammates, care about your team, care about the way your university comes off, especially if it's a misunderstanding, which apparently it was, because it was a misunderstanding, and it would certainly appear that in this instance, nobody was lying to Warren Thompson, and so you can understand why a lot of and Mike Norvell made that point. He's like, look, a lot of coaches would just turn around and say, no, I'm done with him. But I didn't want to do that. And he basically said, the first 8 months with Warren were great until last week. And he said they're moving forward. It's under, they're moving forward with it. It's done. It's over with. We'll see. I don't know what Norvell's punishments are, if they're stadium steps or not, but I would imagine he's running a few if and when he's out of quarantine. I just think, again, that's a 6 and 7 kind of mindset where I'm mad. I want the world to know it. I don't care what happens around me, what happens to the people around me at the time. And you hope that Warren Thompson learned a lesson there. That's what you think. I mean, he's 20.
I like the apology, man. I thought the apology
the apology was good, and
yeah.
I thought Norvell was genuine.
Yeah.
I don't think that was disingenuous. I think he really does like Warren Thompson. I think he probably has seen a lot of growth in that kid. And I'm sure he, the way he transformed his body a little bit, the way he was practicing so hard when they in the spring, I think he really does like that kid. I don't think he'd say it otherwise. And I don't think he'd take him back otherwise. So, that was it was good to see that that's done. And you're right about Norvell. Like, I think most coaches would say either, yes, he's a part of our team, or no, he's a part of our team, and that would be it. You'd have to ask a follow-up question, and then they'd repeat it, like, we don't talk about disciplinary measures, or we don't talk about stuff like that. But he went on, literally, folks, it must have been a 400-word. You can get a war chant and read it, because I transcribed it all down. It must have been a 400-word response about Warren Thompson, and just talking about, he kind of saw his things too, like his side of it, in the sense that, he kept saying these kids are going through so much. They're dealing with so much, and he goes, you just can't let your emotions get the better of you and let one story become another story, which are not true. But, it's a difficult time with the emotions and the pandemic and not knowing if you're going to have a football season. And so, he seemed to give him a benefit of the doubt, but it took Warren issuing an apology and apparently coming up to the football offices and clearing the air.
Which, again, that's what you have to do after you put your foot in it. So I think
Dang right. So, hey, we're all learning lessons here.
Yeah. And again, there's just these are two sort of PR locker room potential crises that he's faced, and he's like handled both of them pretty head on, pretty cleanly. And that's a good thing. I mean, obviously, you don't want these things to pop up, but I feel like the way he handled them, this is Mike Norvell I'm talking about now, is just it's pretty gracefully, pretty equitable and fair to the kids. And, yeah, man, just makes it – I mean, I think you should be proud of the way your head coach handled these situations.
Do you wonder what it's going to – because it's his first year, and we're in a pandemic, and we're just everybody's just hoping to play. What do you think it'll be like 2 or 3 years from now? Do you think Norvell's the kind of guy that's like, as soon as something like that happens again, he's gone? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not putting up with
somebody
this.
Else does.
Just someone else. Just someone else. Like, if he gets embarrassed publicly again, is he going to be like, nope, we're done. Now that once he establishes himself, you know what I mean? Right. Does that change the way he handles situations like this?
He's got that Clemson-esque culture around him. Like this team's winning 10 wins and competing for things.
Yeah, you know that. It's coming. It's 2022, baby. Possibly. It might be 2020 for all we know.
Possibly. I don't know. He seems to me to be a pretty, I don't know, man, just he doesn't seem like, we've seen the way he's coached at practice, and I think we all are encouraged by the way he handles himself at practice as a head coach and the tone that he sets there.
Yeah, because trust me, he's not a softie.
No.
He's a lot more like Vince Lombardi than you would think, I promise.
That's a really good question, Corey. It really is. I think maybe there's a little bit of like new dad, like I'm the stepdad. I'm going to try to do everything I can to be the nice, cool guy right now. And then maybe after a few years, it's like, hey, I've established this standard. We all, we're not going to let this stuff fly anymore. But I feel he takes. I would think everything is like a case by case sort of situation. Yeah. I think if a kid's got legitimacy to his gripe and is coming back to him like in a sincere, hat in his hand way. He'll take it for what it's worth and figure it out. I don't think it's what he's saying.
I think this one too. The fact that it is what it is with COVID.
Yeah, man.
Like that is such a serious issue. Like if I just think 2 years from now, if he has one of his players, and obviously for a far less serious matter than COVID, calling him a liar on Twitter, that'll be that player's end of days at Florida State.
Yeah.
I think this was a unique circumstance, just like Marvin Wilson was. But I think he might go into one of the team meetings in the next couple of weeks and say, none of you else better try me. That's it. 2 strikes, we're done. I don't want to be called a liar again on social media. Or all of y'all are running stadium steps forever and we're canceling the season. Like I'm pulling, you know what I mean? Like I think he's going to be done with this. He's tired of dealing with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So. And I don't think this has opened the door for players running the program or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just think.
I don't at all. I agree with you. That's something you could worry about. I don't see that happening in this case at all.
Okay, and then the last thing, and it kind of dovetails nicely into what we kind of just spoke about. It's also Corey's column, but listening to the way that Mike Norvell described Monday's practice, just start again the wheels turning in terms of. What Jimbo did in 2017, I guess I probably will never be able to fully wrap my head around it. At some point he obviously checked out. We can all agree on that. But this team, I don't know how they to learn how to practice again, which sounds really weird. What this program, what these players have done on a day-to-day basis as football players at practice the last 2 years. I don't know how quickly you can shake that. And that was kind of my takeaway from listening to Mike Norvell talk about the intensity he didn't see. They didn't play up to the caliber he feels that this team can be. And then I'm like, well, how can you blame them? Because we would be at practice. We would see the same nonsense every single freaking day. They would do the Knoll drill. And like even that thing, for me complaining about the music, just the entire way they would run it, guys line up on the side getting run into. Poor kids that are part of the support staff, like water boys, getting trucked into because they don't have it organized all nice and tightly and neatly. It seemed like they didn't even know who was going to run the drill. It was one of those things where I guess they wanted to create some sort of toughness when like, hey, man, like coach put me in. I want to get a shot on the kid. Like the whole thing was just such nonsense. And now this team and this staff is trying to build a real winning program again with, just solid fundamentals, discipline, and there's a new standard and how difficult it is. I can't even this is what everybody I think was complaining about with Jimbo to Willie. Like, hey, Aslan, Jimbo screwed everything up. You got to give Willie time to fix the culture and get the bad apples out. No. Like, what Mike Norvell has to do now is, I think, what a lot of the pro-Taggart folks at the beginning were trying to convince me about, and it's get these guys to figure out you can't take any days off, and it's going to be really, really freaking difficult to get this thing turned around. But if you buy in, it will happen.
It's the analogy with the bad. It's not even an analogy, but with the bad apples, and maybe. Collectively or individually, some of those kids that were around in 18 and 19 weren't awful kids, but they were bad apples when it came to practice habits and playing hard and discipline. So they were bad apples because of maybe the last year of Jimbo and the entitlement that was constructed within that culture. And then Willie turned those bad apples and drenched them and just poisoned them. Like they were already tasted bad because they're bad apples, but then he threw razor blades in them or something. Like he exacerbated the issue. He exacerbated the problem with his practice culture. I wonder what those guys like a Levante Taylor, a Dontavius Jackson, people like that, if Norvell had been right after Jimbo. I think we're going to always, those kids are always going to have a stigma next to them because of how, not those two kids, but a lot of the guys that played the last few years, because of how their careers went. But man, if they could have had some discipline and some accountability and some leadership the last 3 years of their tenures, things might have gone a lot differently. But they didn't. None of these kids have had it. So yeah, that's what you're dealing with. And Norvell was mad after practice Monday. And we used to joke about it all the time about, you knew once or twice a summer camp Jimbo was going to have that day where he just ripped everyone. He was short, curt. These guys don't want to be good. Give those kind of answers. As I mentioned in my column, I'm like, those weren't the days to want to do to get a quote about a kid you're writing a feature on.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Jimbo, what about how'd Kenny Shaw look today? How's he been doing? Okay, not great, not good. None of these guys are good enough. None of these guys. Oh, well, thanks. That'll be great in my story I'm writing about Kenny Shaw. That's great. And we couldn't talk to the receivers coach. Jimbo was the only guy that gave us quotes. So Norvell wasn't like that necessarily, but I also think some of Jimbo's stuff, like at least a couple of times, was, I don't want to say staged, but he knew he had to do it. He knew he had to go off just to go off. I think it was for the players' perspective. He wanted the players to read it and see it so they didn't get a big head. I think this was completely genuine with Norvell. And this is what the deal is, man. For what he said on Monday, he thought that the scrimmage on Saturday night was one of the best scrimmages he'd ever been around, especially considering they didn't have a spring. And it was the first time they'd been put in that environment. From the communication, from the alignment, he thought they did everything really well. And then they come out on Monday, and they, apparently on the offensive side of the ball, they were basically awful the whole practice. And he's like, that's that's what we're dealing with. We got to get you got to set the standard. We got to be tougher. We got to have a tougher mindset. We got to be more intense. And it's like, yeah, man, that's the deal right now, dude. Like you have a 6-7 program. You have an 18-20 program. That's their record over the last 38 games. So it's not going to be a quick fix. So he's getting that now, but I liked it. I thought it was encouraging that he's not okay with it. And he's not going to just speak in platitudes whether they deserve it or not. He called them out because he didn't like the way they practiced. But it wasn't calling them out just for the sake of calling them out so they don't get a big head. No, he was mad because they're too up and down. And that's the problem. There's just an inconsistent, I guess, work ethic or mindset that comes with what these players have dealt with for the last 3 years. So that's how you change the culture. You change the culture again. You don't change it on Saturdays. You change it from Sunday to Friday, and that's what he's in the midst of doing, and he's got a month to do it. I guess I shouldn't say that. He's got years to do it, but he's got a month until the first game.
I mean, that's for as much as we talk about the amount of time you were able to work on fundamentals in spring and how you lost that. I mean, so much of it just has to be those 15 practices of setting a new standard. And, I mean, he's having to do that 30 days before his first game in the midst of this, global nationwide pandemic. It's like I don't think we can really fully absorb the magnitude of what he's trying to get done and in the amount of time. And that was the whole thing when I hear him talking about, and you doing a great job of transcribing out and says, we had limited opportunities, and I didn't think today was the intensity we needed. This team needs to challenge itself, but we've got to make a choice as a team to get better. I mean, it's just you can feel good. I mean, I imagine when this team did something good in practice, they got their attaboy when they won their Knoll drill. After that Saturday scrimmage, and he talked about how well they did, I'm sure he let the guys know, because he doesn't seem to be a guy that's going to – he's not like the Saban thing or Belichick where nothing's ever good enough. Like nothing's – you gotta shoot for perfection. Probably let these guys need to hear some good positive feedback, and I'm sure he let them know what he thought about them on Saturday, and maybe some of the guys, all right, man, feeling themselves a little bit. But he comes out and says, well, no, man, like that's not how it works. One good day doesn't mean that gives you a bad day to even things out. Like the good day needs to be built on so you can keep stacking these things and move this thing in the right direction. And
yes or no? I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah,
Do you
sure.
think at some point today, on Monday, or some point in a practice where he has not been pleased, that he's gotten the entire team together, or at least yelled at a segment group? That's why your asses were in El Paso last year, and my team was in the Cotton Bowl.
I could see.
Do you think he's
like
made that point at all? Do you think that's ever that sentiment has ever come out of his mouth? That's why I was in the Cotton Bowl, and that's why y'all are losing to a depleted Arizona State team in the Sun Bowl.
I don't like how you continue to denigrate the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl and the good folks of El Paso.
Hey, I'm sure it seems like a really pretty town.
Jarvis Brownlee was proudly wearing his Tony the Tiger pullover from the Sun Bowl during his press conference or his media availability. So,
hey man, it's better than the bowl. It's better than the bowl T-shirt they got the year before.
That's right.
So
that's right.
small steps, baby steps.
For sure. I mean, he does have some cachet. Maybe not. He doesn't have Bob.
But he's
Stoops
also
cachet.
he's also got an attitude. Like we saw him. It was only 3 days, but I'm telling you guys, this is a guy that runs from drill to drill and will get in players' faces all over the field. Not just his quarterbacks.
6 feet, like within 6 feet of
him. Sorry, yeah, with the he's not in their faces coughing on them with the shield up. So, but he will yell at them and he will make no bones about it if he's upset. He does not care about feelings in the moment at all. That's why I went back to the Lombardi post on Warchant. Man, you can say what you want about his quotes about Warren Thompson, but when you watch the guy practice, when you watch the guy at practice, it's a little bit nicer Jimbo, but it's also a more active Jimbo. Literally, Norvell's going from group to group, looking at everything and yelling at people on special teams, yelling at DBs, yelling at linebackers. Jimbo would save it all for EJ. but Norvell spreads it around, and he is an intense dude. And he even said in his press conference on Monday, we try to make it challenging for him. So he's like, when they get, it's the same thing Jimbo used to say about why he was so hard on the quarterbacks. But he wants them to be prepared for a game where they haven't felt any emotion or felt any stress in a game that they didn't feel in practice. He says a lot of times these guys, they practice one way and they get into a game when the intensity's up and the pressure's up and the emotions are up and they don't know how to handle it. Well, that's why we try to recreate that in practice. So everything he says is like, man, he checks off all the boxes. He really does. The last 8 months have gotten me pretty excited about the future of Florida State football if the kids would stop tweeting about him. But overall, I'm really excited about where this guy has this program going, potentially. Let's just hope there's some football, baby. I'm there. I'm on board. We're going to have some football in 25 days.
What do you think about UNC? North Carolina
that's not great. That's not great, is it? That's not great. Folks, if you haven't been paying attention, North Carolina, I think, has been on campus for a week, 3-4 days.
Yeah, about a week, I
think. And, they've already had like a 700% increase in cases, and they've shut down in-person classes and made it all remote digital learning. That took less than a week. If you saw the images from Chapel Hill on like Friday and Saturday night, just like that, somebody tweeted me one from North Georgia College in Rome. All these like block parties and street parties. In the stuff we were talking about yesterday, and I don't know if that made the show or not, about Tuscaloosa in Alabama.
I kept that in.
It's really discouraging, but it's also something that should not be a surprise to anyone. So I just can't fathom that like John Thrasher is going to cancel school. Or sorry, he might make class once they get. Hey, these like Ira tweeted about. They made sure they got their tuition money in their housing money before they made it all remote learning. And so I think you'll see that around the country, quite frankly. All these there's going to be a lot of situations like this. I just wonder how it's going to impact football. Because I've been saying it for 5 months, and I was right when I said it in March, and I'm right when I'm saying it now. You can do digital learning, online only learning, and still have a football season. We all understand these aren't normal student athletes. They get to play in their football fun houses, and they get free food, and they get unbelievable food, and they get all this stuff taken. We all know that they get treated differently. This would just be a little more, a better example of it. But you can have everybody doing online classes, because I'm sure most of the football team is doing online classes already, and still have a football season. And I think that's what's going to end up having to happen at all these schools. I think that's just what's going to have to happen, which I'm cool with, man. I mean, I know what the universities, people talk about how much the athletic department loses when football isn't being played, which is basically all of it. Well, imagine a university without tuition and housing money. I mean,
their money's going to get refunded, though, the housing. I mean, they're not going to keep the house. I mean, you can't make a kid pay
we'll
for
see.
dorm
Wait for those checks cleared, man. Hey, it's a COVID. Things happen. But the tuition, maybe just tuition money. Just stick with me on tuition. Then.
I will.
Then that's a ton of money. That's a lot more than what football makes. A lot more, and that keeps the doors open too. So I understand, I guess, just from a pragmatic sense, why you wouldn't want to show your cards early. But I don't see how. North Carolina was the guinea pig. They were the canary in the coal mine, and they've already shut down. So, I just think that's going to be one of many stories. But what I'm saying, I know this sounds negative Nancy, but no, this is positive Corey. I'm saying you can still play football even if you're doing online classes only. Make it happen. Make it happen, presidents. Make it happen, commissioners. There's no rule that says you can't.
Maybe this is the first step in creating a bubble. Get all the students off campus and just, the entire university becomes the football's bubble. Lane Kiffin said something similar about Oxford, says it's a challenge for the players to be responsible and not go out. It's hard because no one is taking it seriously around town. Quote, it's not being done at all. Says adults, never mind the students, aren't taking things seriously. Tulsa had 8 players test positive. But on the good note, which will go out on good notes around here, Gus Malzahn, let's see here, 863 tests, 7 times per player, 33 total positives over the course of the summer. So 0 positives from last week's testing.
Okay, there you go, Auburn.
So there you go.
All right, Auburn showed it. We can get it done. Auburn. Make that stuff happen, man. Make that stuff happen. I still believe. And what's weird is all those kids at North Carolina that tested positive for COVID, none of them gotten playing football.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, we'll see how that develops. We'll be back again tomorrow. We're going to go live. It's a Tuesday. It'll be Tuesday, so we have to go live.
Hey, I wanted to ask you real quick. Oh, we do have to go live. That's right. I wanted to ask you real quick before we go.
Absolutely.
Did you watch the play-in game or the playoff game? The first one on
I didn't even know there was one going on. My buddy said it totally delivered. First NBA playoff
I love
game.
it, man. Yeah. What I don't like is they have the crowd turned up a little too much.
Okay.
And obviously it's not a crowd, it's fake noise. But they have it turned up a little too much. I get that you want to have an environment so it's not just sneakers squeaking across the floor. But I wish they would turn it down so you could hear the players cheering, like or talking to each other. Because, you had a game where Donovan Mitchell had 57 points.
What?
And then, and they lost. And Jamal Murray had I feel like he had 18 points in a row down the stretch in an overtime to win that game. And it would have been cool to hear them talking back and forth with each other. But instead, we have fake crowd noise. I wish they would just tone that down a little bit, where you still crowd noise, but let us hear the actual sounds of the game inside the gym. And what's cool to me, man, I love how hard these guys play.
Yeah.
It reminds me of you ever hear those stories about the Dream Team when they had their scrimmages?
Yeah, they showed
the
footage of it.
Dream Team.
Yeah, they showed footage of it during the last
and how there's a beauty in that with okay, they're not just showing out because people are watching. There's 10 guys on a court with nobody watching. There's 20 other people in the entire building, and they're still playing as hard as possible. And it's just that's cool. It's cool to see that competition, even when everything else, all the glitz and glamour and everything is stripped down. At the heart of it, they're still competing like they're 15 years old playing their best friend on a pickup court. that it means something to them. And I know it's the playoffs, but I was struck by that with the Damian Lillard game, the play-in game against the Grizzlies, just how hard they play and how much they care, even without all the extra stuff around. So it's cool, man. And I say that because there's a good chance when football gets played, we're gonna be seeing a lot of that too.
But I think to your point though, like basketball is like you can play 3-on-3 anywhere and it's going to be intense, right? Like if you can play pickup basketball, just by its inherent nature, there's like intensity in playing basketball. That's like the thing about like baseball and football. Like the crowd really totally 110% enhances that sport and the way you perform. So.
But it's cool, like because it's almost like getting a glimpse into like if they did just have one of those pickup games that you hear about, like Jordan when he was filming Space Jam or whatever, and they have these pickup games where nobody's watching it just for the excuse the cliche, but like the love of the game, the purity of it, how much they want to win. It's really cool to see that even without anybody else there. I liked it a lot, so I'm all on board with this, man. As far as I'm concerned, the rest just moving on from here on out. No crowds for NBA playoff games until the Hawks get into one.
That's right. All right, we'll be back later today then as you're listening to this. We'll be back Tuesday night. We'll do a live version of the show for everybody to listen to on Wednesday. Yes, there will be phone calls. No, I'm not going to stop taking phone calls. Sorry, everybody. But we love you. We listen to your voices. We just can't do everything you want all the time. It's not the way life works. We do everything I want all the time. Corey, thanks for being here as always.
Hey, buddy, don't mention it.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.